Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Costa Rica Crypto. And today I am chatting with one of my favorites in the space, and quite likely one of the most hardworking people that I know in the space as well. Has his fingers into everything. I want to welcome you, Nathan. Thanks so much for coming on again. And I know you were recently at the London Hackathon. What were you doing out there?
Well, I'm still in London. Blockchain Live is coming up on Wednesday, and thanks again for taking some time to chat. Yeah, I was working with EOS Nation and EOS Trybe and John from Karma to put together a cool decentralized trading platform to pitch to the hackathon guys. Unfortunately, it didn't go that far, but it's a pretty cool project. The focus was on protected identity on the blockchain, and we probably just didn't hit it quite hard enough.
Yeah, well, I don't know, everything starts with a single step, right? You put the idea out there and a couple of people grab a hold of it, and then before you know it, it's got traction, man. And you've got you're involved with so many things, like so many things that I'm excited about too, of course, right? Genereos, which is hands down one of my favorite DEPs, just based on the ethics and the way that you guys run alone. And of course, your team is really strong. Always been super supportive. You work hard. We both know that. I'm also, man, anything new with Airdrop's DAC? Because that's high on my radar. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Right. So Airdrop's DAC, we're putting together some material. Emanate, one of the projects in the space, and they're going to be presenting in a couple of days at Blockchain Live, is using sort of the groundwork of one of our tokens for their upcoming airdrop. So we're excited to see how that works out. And then we're currently talking with Higher Vibes that they may be or will be using our token for as part of their airdrop. And we're just putting together a lot of ideas, laying down some legal groundwork so that we can start having better offerings in the security space. And I think we'll have a lot of interesting information coming out in the next month.
You have to keep me tuned, Ben. Fan of what you guys are doing. I know the team's really strong for Airdrop's DAC. Huge fan of Higher Vibes because I know Blue Jays is involved there. And a lot of the projects that you already have your hands into. So it's going to be cool, man, and I'm hoping that you'll come back on and we can kind of do updates as we go. What was new? What was cool? What kind of intrigued you that you got to witness there at the hackathon? What really stood out?
Oh, well, it's kind of funny. Last time in Sydney, I mentored, so you get a chance to like walk around and talk to a lot of people. And then when you're in the sort of the competing zone and you're laser focused trying to get your stuff out, you sort of, it's a different side of the coin, and you sort of lose the chance to go and talk to a lot of, a lot of the people in the space. But, there was a lot of great talent there, a lot of great ideas about protecting your identity in the space, and really excited to see how those projects come to fruition. And we also had a sneak peek of Dan and Block.one's new iOS platform, and so that was pretty cool. For everybody saying that it's going to be a wallet that's going to make everything obsolete, not quite true. It's going to be a platform where anybody with any dApp can leverage that on iOS and eventually Android. So I think everybody should be pretty excited for it.
We need that integration, man. There's no doubt. And the fact that it's close is good. And it's funny because we talked about last time, it's kind of an impatient space, right? Everybody wants things done now, but it's how long has the chain been live? Like it feels for me like it's been live forever, but we both know. I think it just hit 100 days the other day. Is that right?
Yeah, we're getting close. October 1st, Genereos is actually doing our first charitable distribution. It'll have been 1 quarter since we started receiving funds from the mainnet. And so we're going to be sharing, our 20% of our net profit with some different causes and efforts in the EO space and charitably. And we're going to be taking our poor man token in some new fun directions. And we're also putting together the Merchios swag store to let people have access to EOS swag from a wide variety of block producers.
That's cool, man. I like it. I always kind of talk about the way that a lot of developers now are kind of, and I stole this from Gary Vaynerchuk, but a lot of the developers in the space are kind of becoming like the new rock stars, right? Like it's a changing space. And as EOS continues to expand and we continue to build all these cool projects, I think it's just going to become more and more so.
Well, I think that's where these hackathons are important too. Some people feel, we want some rock stars to really promote the community, but we also want less rock stars and more just everybody. We want, everybody getting their hands on code. We want everybody to develop and contribute their ideas. And I think events like the hackathon show that there's a lot of really interested talent that hasn't been involved in the blockchain space yet. And platforms like EOS are making it more and more accessible for all this great talent to come on board and, share that in the blockchain world.
Yeah, totally, man. Speaking of kind of some of the new and exciting things, I've of course brought you here today because I found out that you guys are going to be a block producer for one of the projects that I'm really excited about and I've been talking about quite a bit lately, and I will continue to. And that, of course, is Worbli. How did you guys find the project? How were you guys selected as a BP, and what's kind of your involvement?
Well, it's a funny story. The finding out about it is one of those small world stories. It turns out that Sam from Worbli actually used to be a roommate of Tim, who's a member of our team. And he's like, "Hey, you guys do EOS stuff? We're doing this whole side chain financial thing. It's like, you want to hear about it?" And it's like, "Yeah, man, that sounds pretty cool." So sort of small world got us in touch, and then we really loved the idea. They really loved what we're trying to do in the EOS space, and it just felt like a good fit.
Yeah, it makes sense. You're one of quite a few really strong block producers that are actually going to be coming on for Worbli, which is another reason why I'm kind of excited about it. Genereos has a good reputation. You guys are doing the right thing, and it's cool to see a bunch of people kind of with the background that you guys have coming in on a project like this on the ground floor. We'll talk about it a little bit more in depth and kind of get into it, but it's cool, man. Love Genereos, love Worbli, match made in heaven. So I guess some people might want to know, or they might want to ask you, what's the difference between being a block producer on mainnet versus being a block producer on Worbli when everything goes live?
Well, from a technical perspective, it's very similar. The infrastructure required, the operations is similar. Worbli being a financial chain will have a little more rigor around reporting and around identity of the producers. So, users of Worbli, there's a strong need for KYC because it is fintech focused, which is why it has its own chain. And likewise, the producers are going to be held to a higher standard for, if banks and financial services are coming to the chain, we have to conform with whatever sort of legislation or compliance KYC of our own that a financial chain would require. So just that accountability and that legal compliance goes up a few notches. But technically, on just running it, it's very similar.
Cool. One of the things that, and I was joking around about this the other day, actually. One of the things that I like about Worbli is one of the many uses is I think that it could really be kind of a crypto fiat bridge. Like I know right now, if I want to go out and I want to buy some EOS and I want to put it in my account, and for a lot of us, we might take that for granted. It might seem super simple, right? We've done it 100 times, but I think that if we really want mass adoption, and one of the things that they're trying to accomplish is just, simple click, buy, move funds, no private keys, everything's managed for you. And I think we need that because, grandma's never gonna, maybe some are, but a lot of grandmas aren't gonna hop on, buy some EOS off an exchange, do the KYC, make the transfer, bring it over here, stake it, vote it. Like it's just, EOS is a beautiful thing, but it takes a little bit of knowledge to get into it. And I know that one of the things that they plan on accomplishing is just a an easier, smoother kind of user base. So I always joke around about, if they can accomplish that, and I think that they will, and they make it just really easy to transfer funds back and forth, and a lot less of a cost associated with it. My biggest worry is that grandma's going to be on there. She's going to be buying up all sorts of stuff. You know what I mean? Buying up Ether. She's going to be buying up Tron, and it's going to be an issue. You got to manage grandma, because grandma's got retirement savings and she's buying up a bunch of stuff, and maybe you don't agree. But in all seriousness, like, how do you think that Worbli possibly could help facilitate adoption?
Well, as a fintech sidechain, there is that focus on bringing organizations such as banks, such as governments, such as exchanges, financial providers, through that sort of KYC layer onto the network easier. So you have access to the blockchain through these sort of institutions that have been around a long time. They have a high amount of trust, a high amount of process and due diligence, and so having this focused chain should help sort of smooth that process and get more people who are already comfortable with traditional banking, and now they can essentially bank or use financial services on the blockchain. For people who are looking at blockchain because they don't like some of those traditional services, the mainnet and other chains are still available, and they're not forced to participate. But for the mass adoption, this is sort of helping with those baby steps, those first steps to move from the traditional methods people are familiar with onto the blockchain space. And then once they've made those transitions with inter-blockchain communication, they can start moving further and further away from those traditional formats, but they're there, and they can provide that huge bridge, like you said, between the fiat world that will continue to exist for some time and the blockchain world that's going to facilitate all these sorts of trustless transactions, access to various amazing crypto projects, and make it easier for grandma to go up and buy all your tokens.
Get away from the Tron, grandma. No, I have nothing against Tron. I think too that people are a little put off, and they're worried because kind of, unfortunately, not for everybody, for people like yourself and myself, and a lot of the people who are involved with EOS and cryptocurrency now, I think a lot of people still see it maybe as kind of funny money. And I think we have the ability to deliver an insured wallet with a smooth user experience. And you know what I mean? They don't have to deal with the private keys, and we just kind of facilitate an easy transition from fiat to crypto. That I think that it's going to really help change the perception. And I'm really hoping that it's going to be kind of an onboarding for a lot of the population who had kind of watched in the shadows. So time will tell, I guess, but that's kind of, that's what I'm seeing. That's why I'm so excited about Worbli. I guess initially Worbli is going to be centralized, right? And a lot of people in the community, kind of object to that. And of course, we both know that they have like this 2-year road to decentralization, right? What do you think? Why do you think they chose that model? And do you think it's a necessity?
I think it is, and one should consider it's not fully centralized. There is sort of, the Worbli guys have some direction in mind, but there's still 21 producers. There's still, we're all going to be, keeping our eyes on each other and making sure, blocks are accurate. And so from that sense, the production remains decentralized, but there is a direction, a goal, and a purpose that is very clear. And to support the sort of rapid changes that might be necessary to ease that sort of fintech adoption, bring dApps into the space, and to evolve with the various, trials that they may come across, the lessons learned. Having that clear direction helps facilitate that. The mainnet, we even saw during the launch with 500 various people jumping onto calls and everybody fighting for consensus, and should we launch, should we not launch, should we upgrade code, should we test code. It's good because everybody makes sure that due diligence is applied, and no one can manipulate the system. But it is slower, it's onerous, it takes time, and for something that like what Worbli is trying to achieve, people need, the fintech space is looking for something that has that ability to adapt quickly, to be purpose built, and to ease that adoption, and to have that certainty that it's going to do what we say it's going to do, and not branch off based on the whims of whoever gets voted in at the time.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And I think the fact that they do have a 2-year path to decentralization kind of makes sense. Like, let's get real here. We need to be able to create that pathway to the fintech sector, and the fintech sector does not like uncertainty. And I've noticed that it's a really, really strong team of VPs that are coming out, of course, Genereos being amongst them. So I think I understand kind of why they chose that model. My next question is something along the same lines. So Worbli and EOS, can they be friends or sworn enemies for life? And I think you already touched on that a little bit.
No, I think they're going to be the best of friends. The Worbli guys are very active with, interblockchain, that sort of communication process. They talk with the Block.one guys, and they really want to work together. There is no, animosity. There's no reason why it's, one or the other. There can only be one. Highlander type stuff. It's, the main net is EOS for everybody, and Worbli is, EOS for fintech at this time. And they're gonna, talk to each other. They're gonna play nice, and, rising tides raise all ships, or however the saying goes. It's just going to help everything out, and it's going to bring a whole wealth of dApps and expertise and services to EOS infrastructure, and all that development can run on any chain. So, a lot of these fintech services, they can run on the fintech chain and say, hey, this blockchain stuff, it's not bad. Let's go launch over here as well, or let's have everything play together. Let's add it on any of these other side chains that seems like a good fit. So it's gonna be a really good thing for all of EOS.
Yeah, I have to agree. I talked to Thomas Cox the other day, and he actually said something that I found pretty interesting. Dan had expressed that he didn't know why there weren't a lot more chains, right? So I think it's just a benefit, right? It's just another form of EOS, and of course Dominic and his whole team there are EOS people. Dominic's been pretty prevalent in the EOS community for a long time, so I know the intention is to try to but to get everybody to play nice. So the next thing I want to ask you is, you're a well-known programmer in the community. As we spoke about, you kind of got your hands into everything. You got a ton of respect. What does Worbli really have to nail with their user interface to really kind of drive adoption?
Well, what Worbli is trying to do is make it so that other people can make great user interfaces. So, Worbli wants to, when they go fully public, have some, easy to use wallets and services ready to go. And I think everybody in this space needs to have just easy, mobile first UX and UI, something that grandma can use. So, a lot of people coming into the space, we're all hardcore. We live with the pain that comes with early adoption, the trials of blockchain. But to get everybody on board, we want to make it smooth. We want to make it easy. And Worbli has that, at the forefront of their mind. They want it super easy, and they're, talking with people who are going to make it super easy. Whichever banking app you use, whichever part of the world has the best mobile app, they want that sort of user experience and better on Worbli, and they're endeavoring to do it, and I think they'll hit the mark.
I hope so. As you said, it needs to be simple. And lots of people are into crypto right now, but I don't think we're going to see mass adoption until somebody can log in and then just make things happen. And right now, for a lot of us, I think we take for granted the fact that we've been doing this a while, so moving stuff around from wallet to wallet, we exchange over here, and then we've got to submit this, and then if we want to pull out money, it takes a while, we get killed on fees. And I know that reducing the fees too and reducing the accessibility in between fiat and crypto is something that Worbli is aiming to do. And I also know that the plan is to do so not just for Worbli, but as you said, so there's an easy access there, and then after that, hopefully people who are kind of brought in can start taking a look around the space. They want to move their funds into other realms, onto other chains, into other assets, particularly EOS, we hope. I know that they'll do so. So it's like that little terrible term, but it's like the gateway drug to crypto. So I guess Worbli and KYC, why do you think that they need it in your opinion?
Well, the plain fact of the matter is that a lot of the financial world, a lot of governments require you to know your customer. You have to know who they are, that you're not laundering money, that when you log into the bank and you try to get a mortgage, that your money is your money and not coming from a bunch of weird unknown sources, and that when you're engaging, you are who you say you are. So we have this picture of the world, and Dan Larimer is getting us closer where we can have trustless identity, identity where people know who you are without knowing who you are, type thing. But for the rest of the world, until that becomes mainstream, you need to have KYC, and that's why it's helps that it's a side chain, because people who they don't want to give up who they are for whatever reasons. They want to remain anonymous. They can continue doing that on EOS. But if you want to use the services that will be available on Worbli, you want to bank and have this easy access, then KYC is just a necessary evil for now.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Dom also mentioned the other day too, in order to claim your Worbli, you don't need to complete KYC. So I'm sure, but in order to interact with certain dApps, you're going to need to do that, which makes sense because they've got to know who you are. An insurance stamp isn't going to insure you unless it knows that you're a real person and have an identity, and it needs certain things. So,
and that's a really good point that you bring up, that there will be these sort of levels, depending on the app, depending on the service provided. They can have different standards of KYC, and Worbli is going to facilitate where you can say, okay, you just need to know my name, or you need my name and an address, or name and banking history, whatever the app needs, and then you just open up those different those apps, and you're like, okay, I want to start engaging in these and these and these. I'll do what's necessary.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that when people see some of the opportunities that are going to be coming up, I think they're going to be more and more interested. Chatted with Dominic, he was talking about the ability to invest in insurance bonds. Like when could you ever do that before? It's a pretty good industry. Returns are good. And the fact that we're even, being able to insure, for example, block producers and find privatized insurance for dApps is a step in the right direction, because it not only provides consumer protection, it provides, protection to the dApps themselves, and just makes everything a little bit safer, a little bit easier to play when it comes to taking risks. So what do you think that, Worbli kind of is Worbli as the finance center of kind of EOS? What do you think that the financial district, rather, what kind of things do you think that Worbli can accomplish that EOS might not be able to, based simply on governance structure?
What can they accomplish? That's a tricky question. They can accomplish anything. Like, there's basically whatever they need to do to support the needs of dApps. So for example, a lot of dApps may be closed source for various security reasons, and we might have auditing to say, and there will be auditing because of the centralized nature. We can sort of have a gateway to what sort of dApps are available on Worbli. So that's one thing that is outside governance, is sort of that control of what can be there. But then the fact that these services can be closed sourced for the protection of everybody, and through this auditing, those can be put online. Some of the other aspects, trying to think how it relates to governance, but basically the needs of the DAFs and the needs of the people can always come first, and the best way to do that can be viewed on a case-by-case basis, rather than having to have this universal framework that's not necessarily one size fits all.
For sure. I think it's a pretty solid answer. I definitely couldn't have said it better myself. A little bit of a tangly question, but I like the way that you answered it, to be honest. Okay, my next question was, what's kind of the most exciting part about being involved with this project on the ground floor?
I think it's going to be seeing some of the changes that can be done with EOS, some of the changes to system contracts, to resource distribution. And I think most exciting of all is going to be being at the front lines of hopefully mass adoption. Seeing all these financial services who are like, oh, blockchain, we don't want to touch that. People will, steal our funds, or we won't know who anybody is. It'll be used for laundering. All the typical reasons that big institutions might be avoiding blockchain. And now seeing them come in and seeing what they might be able to do with it, seeing the creative ways, because financial institutions have a lot of talent, and just seeing that once they're just given like, hey, go ahead and try out blockchain, seeing what they can do, what interesting things they'll bring to the table, and being at the forefront of that is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's needed. For sure, we need grandma on board, or at least the capacity for her to get on board through a simple user interface and just a couple of clicks. Because as we both know, huge fan of EOS, do a ton of EOS stuff. Of course, Worbli is part of that ecosystem, and I'm a fan of it because I think ultimately it is going to provide that gateway. And then people can kind of come in, they can poke their head into Worbli, and they've just got this whole universe opened up for them where they can kind of choose the path that they want to take. So that's one of the things I'm excited about as well. I guess some people worry about side chains, but I think ultimately all these side chains are going to be able to work cooperatively for a more diverse ecosystem, right? It's just another EOS with some different rules, kind of, and they're all working to do the same thing. And when IBC comes,
and it's getting closer. I was talking with Sandwich at the hackathon, and ESIO 1.3, it's brought in the WABIT interpretation of and running of WebAssembly contracts. It's increased the speed, the CPU, or reduced the CPU needs by nearly 60%. And he was saying this is the first step of a few steps left to getting really solid IBC working. So we're really close to having all these chains working together in really cool ways. And he was pointing out to me that being able to move EOS from one chain to another, sure, you'll be able to do that, but there's going to be a whole wide space of just cool stuff, out of the box stuff that's going to be available once these different chains can start talking with each other through IBC and light clients and all sort of stuff. So we're getting really close, and it's going to just make the EOS ecosystem explode.
Yeah, I hope so. And then once again, we talked about, it's been 100 days. Like some of the stuff that I'm seeing, some of the things that are kind of coming out and been developed in 100 days, like 100 days, man. It's just, it's shocking. So it's like, it's a cool time to be in the space. And I'm looking forward to seeing kind of some of the things that come up. What would you say to those people who are hardcore decentralization? Of course, I love, I'm a decentralization guy myself, but I also recognize the utility of gateway to decentralization, and of course, a path to decentralization as through Worbli. What would you say to some of those guys who have kind of sworn off Worbli and said, it's the devil, or or it's a complete abomination?
Well, I think it's almost like you said. We're looking at creating more and more gateway drugs to the world of blockchain. So, you know, you have all these different ideas. You have like the blockchain, the immutable ledger, you have, you know, decentralization, you have cryptocurrency, you have all these concepts, and different people need different parts of those concepts. You don't always need all of it at once, all of it packaged together all the time. And so having access to all these different pieces and bringing more and more and more people in, it doesn't mean that, you know, the stuff that you're personally passionate about is getting swept away. It's just expanding and expanding the opportunities, and it's getting those people who are, you know, afraid of this scary cryptocurrency blockchain, like people who don't know what decentralized means, and it's getting them in, and it's getting them saying like, okay, that was easy. How else can this help me? What other cool things? How can I start looking at, you know, DAX, decentralized, you know, organizations? How can I start look at, you know, not needing a bank to secure my assets, moving away from traditional banking, moving away from traditional governments. And so working with the mainstream starts letting everybody look and become comfortable with all the cool stuff that all these technologies are going to start to unlock.
Yeah, and the insured wallet, like that in itself. If you're not in cryptocurrency, all you hear is exchange, hacked, millions gone. You know what I mean? And to finally have somewhere, like thank you, whoever, for you know, for a wallet that you don't have to worry about your stuff. Like I think that's pretty big. That's one of the things I love about it. Why have we been waiting so long for this, Nathan? Like, why? Do you know what I mean? Like, why today? Like, why do you think that is?
Well, blockchain's hard, or at least we make it seem hard, and it's getting less hard. And you know, people like Worbli and projects like EOS project as a whole is making everything less hard, and so it's going to keep accelerating. You know, as you said, 100 days, we got this far. The technology keeps improving, awareness keeps growing. You know, everybody starts to stop thinking about, oh, I just want my project to moon, and thinking about, hey, let's actually think about the whole world and not just myself. And the potential is huge, and it's going to keep accelerating.
Yeah, that's the hope. And I think, you know, that's one thing. I never like I want everybody to win. I don't know if that makes me, you know what I mean? Because I know like different people have this like infighting, like my project's better, and it's just, you know what, man? Like if it's on EOS, I'm down. As long as it's not malicious and it's not hurting anybody. I think that, you know, EOS adoption is EOS adoption in any forum. And I think that the more that people can kind of come together and realize that it's a community of EOS rather than a community of projects and help each other out, I think the better.
Well, and what was really interesting, and I was at Consensus in Singapore, you know, just a few days ago as well, is some of these projects, you know, they don't even have to be just EOS. People are getting like fully inter-blockchain. Here's Ethereum talking to Neo, talking to EOS, talking to whatever else, and it's going to all play together, and there's no reason it can't.
Yeah, agreed. Do you think that Worbli has the potential to, this is one of the things that's kind of in some of the literature, to be able to provide services to either the underbanked or the unbanked?
Certainly.
Next question.
I think, you know, the question will be around some of the KYC and some of the providers, and you know, who's going to take those steps to provide those on and off ramps. But I think it helps the unbanked, because if they can start trading and having these abilities to use currencies where you don't need a traditional bank, and then when you need to buy something with, you know, where providers don't necessarily accept these cryptocurrencies, they can still liquidate and purchase those products in a very smooth, easy fashion. That can only help those people. We need, you know, more and more ways where these alternative currencies, these self-banked currencies, can continue to interact with the world as a whole. And that just continues to help facilitate the process where we rely less and less on fiat by making the crypto to fiat so easy that then people start asking, well, what was the difference anyway? And it starts to move away from fiat.
Yeah. Will fiat ever disappear? What do you think?
It's hard to say.
Bonds, yeah.
I think if I was going really philosophical, it can disappear, or it might just be on blockchain. We'll just have USD coin and AUD coin and yen coin on some kind of chain, because really that's all it is right now. It's just a number in a bunch of banks' databases, and they say, okay, I subtracted my number and you have to go add your number. And then they start saying, well, this is really inefficient. Maybe we should just all share the same number. And whoops, we accidentally tokenized fiat. So it's a philosophical difference, but technically fiat's already a token. So we're getting closer.
Interesting perspective, buddy. I think is your job going to change? Is the whole Worbli experience as a BP going to exchange as they start to change, as they start to move towards a decentralized model? How do you see that changing for you guys?
I think in a way, because it is centralized, like I mentioned, technically very similar, but organizationally or as a business, it's going to be a lot more hands-on, and we're going to be helping shape, and along with all 21 initial paid producers, we're going to help shape the direction of that decentralization. Worbli, is very actively engaging our opinion. This isn't a dictatorship. This is truly a partnership. And so all of us are helping guide that course. And like you said, there's a number of great block producers from the mainnet community that a lot of people support and love. And they're going to be helping guide the direction of Worbli to, make sure everything's on the level and everything reaches the decentralized ideals that everybody in the space would like to see happen.
Absolutely. And also like content and community engagement. I know that that's one thing that you guys are really good at, as well as kind of some pet projects that you guys have going on. So it'll be interesting to kind of see, see kind of the community come together, and then the BPs stand together to kind of, educate people and just kind of engage people, because you guys are really, really good at that. And I'm I've been a huge fan of Genereos for a long time, and we'll continue.
Appreciate that.
Any final thoughts on the receivers of the share drop or the EOS? Anything you want to say to anybody who's going to receive some Worbli tokens in the share drop, or just any thoughts to the EOS community in general, or anything you want to chat about?
I think the big thing would be stay engaged, share your opinions. This isn't like, hey, we're doing this thing and we don't care what you think. We want everybody using it. If you talk to your bank and say, and your financial provider, your insurance provider, it's like, hey, have you guys heard about this thing? It'd be pretty cool. Just help be an advocate. Why not? We can't all say, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this happened? Well, we're trying to make that happen, so help us out.
For sure. It was pretty cool to see that interview with Dominic on Max Kaiser the other day, right? I don't know if you caught it, but he was on the Max Kaiser report, and it's cool to kind of see Worbli making some big waves as well. And of course, you and I are going to be appearing together at the Worbli online conference as well on the 29th. So just anybody who's watching, hopefully they'll tune into that. I'll place all the details below. I'm going to place all the details, of course, for Genereos and all that kind of stuff below. Nathan, the whole team, good guys, capable guys, very involved in the community. I highly suggest that you consider them in your next vote, because you guys are doing some fantastic work.
Appreciate that.
I'm just looking forward to hearing about Airdrop's DAC. I'm looking forward to hearing about the Poor Man token. and all the other crazy things you have up your sleeve. So thank you so much again for chatting with me, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me on.
You bet, buddy. I'll see you soon.